The Carolina Panthers got thrashed by the Chicago Bears. It was a blowout, and it was probably the worst game that the Panthers have had since Andy Dalton took over as the starting quarterback. And of course, with Andy Dalton struggling in this game against a really good Chicago Bears defense, they put Bryce Young out there in garbage time. And of course, he looked good when Chicago was pretty much running nothing but a prevent defense. And now people want to say, all right, we got to go back to Bryce Young. That's going to fix everything in Carolina. Here's the brutal reality about the 2024 Carolina Panthers. And if you're a Panthers fan, you got to listen closely to this. You were never going to be a good team coming into this season. The Panthers, no matter how good the quarterback play was this year, you were never going to be anything more than a 7-win team at best. All right? This team coming into the year had one of the worst rosters, if not the worst roster in the NFL. Think about all of the talent that Carolina lost on the defensive side of the football. Frankie Louisville, who was the heart and soul on that defense for the last couple of years, he's now in Washington. You lost Gross Matus. You lost a lot of depth on defense, a lot of talent in the back end of that secondary. Jeremy Chin, he's now gone. You trade away Dante Jackson. And offensively, you are already lacking a lot of firepower as it is coming into this year. And although your receiving core has improved, you improve your offensive line, you still have a lot of holes on both sides of the football. So Carolina was never going to be a playoff team, and I overhyped this team. I'm going to be honest, I got a little bit too excited about Bryce Young going into his sophomore season. It turns out the dude is just a flat-out bust and he can't play, and you know, this team had more holes than what I thought they did. Like, regardless of how good of a defensive coordinator Jaro Evero is, he has probably the worst defense in the NFL when it comes to pure talent. Like, the Carolina Panthers are just a trash team. And I'm not saying that to be disrespectful. I'm trying to say that as nice as humanly possible because I love Carolina Panthers fans. I'm not trying to just crap on y'all just to crap on y'all because y'all not good. What I'm trying to say is that if you thought this team was going to be able to play better than what they have early to start this season, you were a little bit delusional. And I was right there with you. Before the season, I said that I trusted the Panthers to win this division more than I did the Atlanta Falcons. Do you not know how foolish I look now when I think upon that statement? Like, the Atlanta Falcons just have a way more talented team than what Carolina has. This is a rebuilding season for the Carolina Panthers. And you already messed up when you whiffed on drafting Bryce Young first overall. When you miss on quarterbacks in the draft, it normally sets your franchise back 3-4 years. It's going to take a while for the Carolina Panthers to put a team on the field that's playoff caliber. Right now, this is still a bottom 3 roster in the NFL. They really don't have any key pieces on defense, especially with the injuries that they sustained. Derek Brown, your best player on the defense side of the football, he's out for the season. You just lost another guy to an injury. Austin Corbett on the offensive line. Like, the Carolina Panthers, they already were coming into this season not that talented. Then you throw injuries on top of it. This was a recipe for another bad season for Carolina. And if you're a Panthers fan, the thing with having Andy Dalton in at quarterback is now that he makes you somewhat competitive. Although you still are going to lose with him in the majority of games that you play this year, it's not going to be 45-7, 45-3 like what we saw in the first 2 games when you had Bryce Young in that quarterback. But the games are still going to be lost by a pretty big margin just because you aren't that talented. And as good as a coach as Dave Canales could turn into, you know, there's only so much coaching can do when you just have holes all across the board on your roster. The Panthers are just not a good team. Even if you go back to Bryce Young, that's not going to make you better. You're still going to have the same issues. Eventually, you got to just accept the fact that we aren't that good of a team. You know, having Andy Dalton in makes you somewhat watchable. If you're going to be bad, you'd rather be bad with Andy Dalton because nobody wants to tune in and watch their team just get annihilated week after week, 45-3, like what you were with Bryce Young. Like, Bryce Young is not the answer. You're better off just trading him, trying to get anything that you can draft-wise for him because there's nothing there with Bryce Young. Andy Dalton, in every game that he has started so far for the Panthers, even dating back to last season, the Panthers have done more offensively than what they've ever done with Bryce Young. Like, Bryce Young played good against backups in garbage time. The Chicago Bears had their second string defense in, and they were pretty much in a prevent defense. So Bryce Young was able to destroy them underneath. But that was garbage time. We saw what Bryce Young has done, and the few games that he's played this season, he's made the Panthers unwatchable. He had guys frustrated. He had Adam Thielen frustrated. Deontay Johnson now looks like a very good wide receiver with Andy Dalton in that quarterback. Like, the Panthers just are a crappy team. You know, it has nothing to do with the quarterback play. Andy Dalton gives you the best chance to win games, but if you're trying to tank and get the first overall pick, then Bryce Young gives you the best chance to do that, because you're not going to be remotely competitive as what you are with Andy Dalton at quarterback than what you are with Bryce Young. Bryce Young guarantees that you're going to lose by 20 or more every single game. At least when you got Andy Dalton, then you can have a respectable loss to the Cincinnati Bengals. You know, you're still losing by more than 10, but at least it's respectable. At least you showed some fight. With Bryce Young, you could even get past the 50 with him in. It's tough to hear this if you're a Panthers fan, that your team just flat out sucks because you're devoid of talent. But that's the truth of the matter. You know, you're down some of your best players on the team out for the season, and you already didn't have that much talent anyway with everything that you lost in free agency. This was always going to be a down season for the Carolina Panthers. And that's just the brutal reality that this Chicago Bears loss made me realize when I was watching the Panthers.